The night the life I knew ended, the kitchen smelled deceptively perfect, like cinnamon, pine needles, and the rotisserie chicken I'd just picked up from Hy-Vee on my way home from the paper mill. It was a grey Tuesday in Cedar Falls, Iowa, the kind where the salt on the roads turns everything a muddy white. I had walked through the door wiping sawdust off my hands, eager to show my 10-year-old stepdaughter Lily that I had finally fixed the roof of her dollhouse. Instead, I found my wife Marcy standing by the stove, her back to me, stirring sauce with a tension in her shoulders that I could read like a weather report. When she turned around, she didn't ask about my day. She didn't look at the fixed toy. She pointed a red-polished finger at me and dropped the hammer. "Lily needs her real father," she said, her voice clear as a church bell. "Rick invited us to the cabin. We're going for Christmas. If you don't like it, divorce me." The windows actually rattled when she slammed the door a moment later. I stood there, paralyzed. Rick? The ex-husband who missed birthdays and parent-teacher conferences? The man whose visits were sporadic at best? But Marcy's eyes were cold, and her mind was made up. She told me I was just the stepfather, the placeholder, and that I was standing in the way of Lily's real family. That night, while Lily slept upstairs under her quilt, unaware that her world was shifting, I sat at the kitchen table. I opened my old laptop and pulled up an email from my company's headquarters in Tokyo. They had offered me a position as a plant maintenance supervisor 3 times. 3 times I had said no, because Marcy didn't want to leave her parents, her salon, or Iowa. I typed 2 sentences. If the position is still available, I'd like to accept. I can leave immediately. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I packed a single bag, drove to the airport, and left. I thought I was doing the noble thing, removing the obstacles so they could be happy. I didn't know then that I was walking away from a crime scene before the crime had even been fully committed. Tokyo was a blur of neon lights and polite bows. The silence of my small apartment was deafening. I felt like a ghost drifting through a city that didn't know my name. But the hardest part wasn't the loneliness. It was the radio silence from home. I sent messages to Lily. "Hey kiddo, hope you're having fun." No reply. I sent photos of the city. No reply. I bought a small wooden fox charm, a symbol of protection, and mailed it to the house in Cedar Falls. The tracking said it was delivered, but I never got a thank you. The turning point came 3 weeks later in the break room. A younger co-worker named Daichi, who had taken pity on the quiet American, slid his phone across the table. "Tom," he said hesitantly, "is your wife's name Marcy Halverson?" I looked at the screen. It was a public legal notice from Black Hawk County. Divorce filing. Petitioner Marcy Halverson, respondent Tom Halverson. Reason, abandonment. I felt the blood drain from my face. She had filed 3 days after I left. She wasn't just divorcing me. She was building a narrative. She was claiming I had run off, deserted the family, and left them destitute. The filing requested full custody of the house, the cars, and all our assets. Then came the second blow. I logged into Facebook, something I rarely did, and saw a photo a neighbor had liked. It was Marcy and Rick standing in front of a snowy log cabin. Marcy looked triumphant in a red coat. Rick was smiling, wearing my Christmas sweater, the green one with the stitched pine tree that Lily loved. And there was Lily standing between them. She wasn't smiling. She looked small, confused, and utterly miserable. That look on her face broke something inside me. It also woke me up. I wasn't the villain Marcy was painting me to be, and I wasn't going to let her erase me from Lily's life. I flew back to Iowa under the radar. I didn't go to the house. I didn't call friends. I checked into a small, cheap room at the VFW post on Franklin Street. It smelled of stale coffee and floor wax, but it was solid ground. I spent the next 3 days playing detective in my own life. My first stop was the credit union. The teller, Denise, nearly dropped her stack of papers when she saw me. "Tom? Lord, we thought you were gone for good." "Why's that, Denise?" She lowered her voice. "Marcy was in here screaming. Said you ran off to Japan with a mistress. She tried to withdraw the entire joint savings account. Emergency funds, she called it. We stopped her because we needed your signature, but she made a scene." I got the printouts. Attempted withdrawal, $45,000. Next was the grocery store, Hy-Vee. I ran into Sandy, a cashier I'd known for a decade. She looked at me like she was seeing a ghost. "So it was a lie," she whispered. She told everyone you blew your Christmas bonus on yourself and skipped town. I hadn't blown the bonus. I had used it to pay the mortgage 2 months in advance before I left. But the most painful discovery came when I called Lily's school. I spoke to Mrs. Callahan, the counsellor. "Tom," she said, her voice thick with relief, "Lily has been inconsolable. She told me her mother said you chose the job over her. Marcy told her you didn't want to be a dad anymore." I gripped the phone so hard the plastic creaked. That was it. The money didn't matter. The house didn't matter. But telling a 10-year-old girl that her father figure had thrown her away? That was war. The morning of the hearing was bitter cold. The sky was the colour of a bruise. I put on my best shirt, my old brown Carhartt jacket, and walked up the steps of the courthouse, meeting my old friend Eric, who was acting as my lawyer. Inside, the radiator hissed in the corner of the courtroom. Marcy walked in a few minutes later. She looked like $1 million, wearing a new fur-lined coat and boots that I definitely hadn't paid for. She was laughing with her lawyer, completely at ease. Then she saw me. The colour dropped from her face so fast, she looked like she might faint. She froze mid-step, her eyes darting from me to the door, as if looking for an escape route. She composed herself quickly, masking the panic with a sneer, but I had seen it. She knew she was caught. "All rise," the bailiff called. The judge, a stern woman with steel-grey hair and zero patience for nonsense, opened the file. "Mrs. Halverson, you are claiming abandonment?" "Yes, Your Honour," Marcy said, her voice trembling slightly with feigned emotion. "He just left. No note, no warning. Lily and I have been struggling to keep the lights on." "I see," the judge said. She turned to me. "Mr. Halverson?" I stood up. I didn't shout. I opened my binder. "Your Honour, I didn't abandon my family. I accepted a transfer to support them after my wife threatened me with divorce if I didn't let her take our daughter to her ex-husband's cabin." I laid out the evidence like a royal flush. Exhibit A. The emails with my company, dated and time-stamped, proving the transfer was planned and approved. Exhibit B. The tracking receipts for the packages sent to Lily, blocked and intercepted by Marcy. Exhibit C. The bank records showing I had paid the bills in advance, contrasting with Marcy's attempt to drain the accounts. "And," Eric added, standing up, "we have a witness regarding the petitioner's credibility." Sandy from the grocery store stood up in the back row. She testified simply and honestly about the vicious rumours Marcy had spread, rumours that were demonstrably false now that I was standing there. The judge's face grew darker with every sentence. She looked at Marcy over her spectacles. "Mrs. Halverson, you filed for abandonment 3 days after he left? You attempted to liquidate marital assets? You told your daughter her stepfather didn't love her? He's not her real father!" Marcy snapped, losing her cool. "Rick is her father." The judge slammed her gavel down. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "Biology does not make a father, Mrs. Halverson. Presence does. Consistency does. And frankly, this court finds your behaviour manipulative and appalling." The ruling was swift. The abandonment claim was dismissed with prejudice. I was granted temporary primary residence of the home. A guardian ad litem was appointed for Lily, and Marcy was ordered to repay every cent she had tried to move. Court is adjourned. Marcy stormed out, her heels clicking angrily on the marble floor. But as the room cleared, I heard a small voice. "Daddy Tom?" I turned. Lily was standing by the door with the social worker. She looked terrified, clutching the hem of her coat. I dropped to one knee and opened my arms. She hit me like a cannonball, burying her face in my neck, sobbing. "I didn't leave you, Lil," I whispered into her hair. "I would never leave you." The final chapter of Marcy's unravelling happened a week later. I was back in the house, our house, making grilled cheese for Lily. It was quiet, peaceful. The dollhouse was back in the living room. Suddenly, a car horn started blaring outside, then pounding on the door. I opened it to find Marcy on the porch. She looked unhinged. Her hair was wild, her makeup smeared. She wasn't the composed woman from the courtroom. She was desperate. "You stole my life," she screamed, trying to push past me. "Give me my daughter." "You need to leave, Marcy," I said calmly, blocking the doorway. "You don't have the right to be here." "I have every right. Rick is waiting right there. We're going to take her." She pointed to the driveway. I looked past her. Rick was sitting in his truck, the engine idling. He was watching Marcy scream and flail in the snow. He looked at me, then he looked at her. And then he made a choice. Rick put the truck in reverse. He didn't roll down the window. He didn't wave. He just backed out of the driveway, turned the wheel and drove away, leaving Marcy standing alone on the sidewalk. She watched him go, her mouth falling open. The fight went out of her instantly. She slumped, realizing she had played everyone against each other and ended up with absolutely no one. She turned and walked away into the cold, slipping on the ice, muttering to herself. Later that night, my email pinged. It was from Rick. Tom, I'm done with her. I didn't know she lied to Lily about you leaving. I didn't know about the court filing. I'm sorry. You're the only real dad that girl has ever had. Take care of her. I closed the laptop. Lily was sitting on the rug, painting. She held up a small wooden figure from the dollhouse set. She had painted its little shirt brown, just like my Carhartt jacket. It's you, she said, placing the tiny wooden dad into the dollhouse kitchen. Now the roof won't break anymore. I smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the furnace. No, kiddo, I said. It won't.